What do you think are the important VIPs worth underlining or circling or putting a box around it? Smiles. All right, what part of that sentence, though, is really the key part? And what else? 400 what? Okay, I need to know that. I'm going to circle it, or you can underline it. What other key pieces of information are worth circling or underlining? Alex. My question one is different from your question one, right? Look on your sheet, it's different, I think. The question on your sheet reads, it says, what is the ratio of miles to Morgantown to hours traveled, right? Actually, my questions aren't different. There's just an extra one that you have that I don't. Because this should be your question 2. And this should be your question 3? Yeah. Yes? Okay, I want you to make a change for number 1, though. Changes took place after printing. That's what happened. I don't want the ratio, for number 1, I don't want the ratio of miles to hours. I want to know what the ratio is hours to miles. Okay, make that change. I'm going to have to put it up here because I'm out of room. Hours to miles, based on the word problem, what should that be? The given ratio, hours to miles. Did I confuse you?
No.
In the word problem, what is the ratio, hours to miles? Mo. 8 to 400, right? Hours to miles is 8 to 400. That's the given ratio. They just want it in ratio colon form. Okay, the rest of the questions now should be okay.
Number 1,
8 to 400 for your number 1. I had to change up here. Okay, ready? I'm keeping my fingers crossed here. What's the value of the ratio? We're still having trouble with value of ratio. You're going to get your quizzes back at the end of class today, and the problematic areas are still value of ratio, tape diagrams with a difference. That was like the second question, I think, or first question. And then that very last question on the quiz was also troublesome for you, which was who's the quickest typist? What's the value of ratio?
1 to 100.
Not 1 to 100. Alex. Close. Take it down further because 2 still goes into both. Jack. 1 to 50. Okay, I'm going to show it to you just so we're clear of how we're getting that. This is like a rainbow. 8 goes into both. 8 divided by 8 is 1, or 1 times 8 is 8. 400 divided by 8, or 50 times 8 gets you 400. Value is always like fraction, reducing it to lowest term, simplest form. Therefore, this is telling you that the train travels how many miles in 1 hour? Z, 50 miles per hour. Okay, now your page 2 is my page 2.
I was wondering if to find value of numbers, you need to divide 2 numbers together.
Not always. Only works if it reduces to where one of the quantities is 1. Okay, I'll give you a for instance. 4 to 6. The value of that ratio is 2 to 3. It won't work if you try to go 4 into 6. Only if one of those numbers reduces down to a value of 1, it will work. The easier way to do it is find out what number goes into both, because one may not necessarily go into the other. Okay? Okay, so our value is 1 to 50. I want you to leave the ordered pair column blank for right now, but I want you to fill in all the equivalent ratios. Here's Stephen. Look at him go. Now it doesn't videotape any pictures of people. It's just keystrokes and voices. So as much as Stephen would like to be on the computer, his face, that will never happen. However, I can guarantee you this is definitely Stephen's writing. We're almost done. All right, check your values, make sure you're good. Okay? Take a bow, Stephen. Okay.
Yeah. Woo! You have made it to the computer.
Okay, so let's use what we've created to answer the questions. Based on the ratio table, how many miles will the train have traveled after 3 hours? Smiley. Here's 3 hours. You can trace across, and it's 150. What about 7 hours? R squared.
350.
Looks good. 350. 4.5 hours. That's a tweener, but you got to kind of use a little bit of reasoning here.
I got it.
T King.
400.
Right, here's 4.5 right here, would be halfway between 2 and 250. And then I think your number 7 is different from my number 7. We're going to wind up doing both. One's going to be worth a ticket. On yours, it says 6.5 hours?
Okay, 6.5.
Okay, but your number 7, what does it say? How many hours?
6.5.
And mine up here is 6 3/4. But let's do 6.5 first. What about 6.5 hours? How far will the train have traveled? Aiden.
325.
Very good. Here comes the bonus. 6 3/4. 6 3/4. I got to do it in my head. All right, I got it. All right, Kayla, you got first crack.
350.
Not 315. Martina,
375.
not 375. Think about it, guys. It does have to be between 3 and 350. That's our range. The question is, how do you do it exactly? Tom, do you have a number?
I know.
There's an exact value. I know you know. I have a feeling you know, but I'm going to go here first. Go.
230.5 miles.
No, but we're close.
Oh, come on. Wait, in between.
Go.
Oh, 335.
Oh, no.
I know.
Mogs.
336.5.
330.
330.
No.
Oh.
Tags? 337.5 is correct. Master Tag, I just pulled the sword out of the stone. 337.5. Don't worry if you can't get it, okay? It's a bonus.
I have questions around.
Okay? But it's actually, the way you're doing it is it's halfway between 325 and 350. You actually have to take 12.5 and add it to 325, and you get 337.5. Okay? That's a tricky one.
I didn't know the halfway. I didn't know.
Okay, let's move on. We are now, don't go on to the next page just yet. Stay on this page, because we're going to bounce back to this page anyway. We could take our values for hours and values for miles, and we can plot these on the coordinate plane. For hours, we're going to make believe the values for hours are our x-axis coordinates, and miles are our y coordinates. And we're going to take our values and put them into a group called an ordered pair. And here's how it works. Make parentheses. The first value of an ordered pair is always the x-axis value. So according to our ratio table and our first given ratio, what is the x-axis point? Or what's the x-axis coordinate? Bridget. What's our y? Dog.
50.
Our first ordered pair for that ratio is 1 and 50. What should the second one be? Charlie. Complete the rest. Yeah, don't make it any more difficult than it needs to be. You're just taking the two values and we're grouping them together, and this is what it should look like when you're done. We're now going to plot these points on the coordinate plane. So go to the next page. I'm going to go to full screen just because I think it's a little bit easier right now to see it. First thing, let's take care of all of the preliminaries first. What should be the title of the graph?
I don't know what graph.
Bridget.
It should be. It should be how Kelly's soccer trip by train.
Good. I sure did, and you could do the same too. Kelly's soccer trip is good enough. That's the gist of it.
Kellis.
Yeah, I have I and I.
Apostrophe S.
Well, apostrophe S is possessive. Label the x and y axis. Y to the sky. X here. Now our x-axis are representing what values? The x is representing what in this case? Because it could change from ratio table to ratio table. Martina.
One.
No, not what we're counting by. What's it representing? What's the quantity? Apples, oranges, pencils. What's it representing?
It's representing miles.
Check again.
Anyway, hours.
Check again. Go back to your table.
Hours.
Hours is correct. When you put your label in, be careful because you need room for your numbers. So I'm going to put it down here just because I want to leave room for me to write in my numbers eventually. My y-axis is representing what? Dog.
Miles.
Miles is correct. Again, leave room for our numbers. The lower left corner is always 0. And I'll do the hours first. We can count by ones. When you make your numbers, watch how I do this. How many hours were there? 7? 8, right? Everybody just be careful. When I make my numbers, don't put them in the middle of a box. It has to line up with one of the vertical lines. See, I'm making these are called hash marks or tick marks. And then my tick marks here going up will be here. And we're going to count by 50s. And that represents our miles. A little tight, but I can get it in. I may have to go back to full screen or to half screen. I'm going to do it. It's too small. I want to be able to see it better. Some of you I probably are going ahead. You could actually start plotting your points if you know what to do. So now you take your points. The first ordered pair is 1 and 50. So you find 1 for hours and 50 for miles, and you make your dot. And
Draw a line that connects through all of our two.
we will when we're done. 2 and 100. take it all the way to your 8. What's great about a coordinate plane when using it for ratios is when you connect your dots, it always makes a straight line. If your dots are not in alignment, then you have made a mistake in your equivalent ratios. It's a great way for you to check to see if all of your equivalent ratios are accurate. Okay? If you plot one point wrong, it's not going to be on the line. You got to look back and say, okay, where did I make my mistake? When you connect your line, I know you don't have a ruler with you right now, nor do I really want you to go and take the time to get one, but in the future, you want your line to be as straight as possible when you connect it, because we can also use the line to predict any equivalent ratio after 8 hours. It's a nice little tool. I'm going to cheat because I can.
Cheater.
When you start your line, start at the 0 and extend past the last data point, because you can use that line for values after 8 hours. So I know you don't have a straight edge right now. Just connect it real straight as you can. And then when you get that done, I got some questions for tickets for you.
This is like my best subject last year, man.
What? Can you please repeat what you said?
What's that, bud? I have questions for tickets. Did you connect your dots? Okay. We've used the data table or the ratio table to answer questions. Now let's just use the coordinate plane. After 2 hours, how many miles will the train have traveled? Krista, 100 is correct. So you always say, okay, 2 hours, trace it up where it meets the line, and then trace across. Come get. After 350 miles, how many hours would that take? Jack? That would be 7. How many miles will the train have traveled after a half an hour? 30 minutes. Anthony?
It would be 25 minutes.
25 miles. Yep, you got it. How many hours will it take for the train to travel 500 miles? This is why we extend the line. Kirsten? No. I asked how many hours will it take for 500 miles? 10 hours is correct. And one last one. This is a tricky one. You ready?
Yeah.
How long will it take? No, I'll go on. I'll make it even more difficult. Let's do two hours and 45 minutes. How many miles? At 2 hours and 45 minutes. Tricky. It's another one of those ones where you're going to wind up with a half or a decimal. 2 hours and 45 minutes. DK. 137.5 is good. Tricky one. Okay? No, we did a different one. It was also a 3/4 one, but it was in a different range. Yeah, it was a different range. So here's how you 2 3/4, which here's 2 1/2, Here's about 2 3/4. If you trace up, it meets the line here. It's between 100 and 150. Here's 125, and then a little bit more than that is 137.5. You're taking 25 and you're splitting that in half, which is 12.5, and then you're adding it to your 150. Okay, I'm going to do ball orchard. I may not get to everybody today. I'll finish it up on Monday because I also have to give you quizzes. Here's what needs to get done, and you can do this in your groups. You have these questions. You've already done 6 and 7, so skip it. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then if time permits, go on to the problem set. Everything is hanging up, key-wise.
In the first, can you like ask the alphabetical order?
I'm doing it in the order in which I have the review sheets, so it's random.